Hi, I'm Alexis Belton, and this is Send It. And we're talking all things golf with two very special guests this week. All right, I am here with two very special guests, returning guests at that, Adam Stanley and Gary Van Sickle. Thank you guys so much for coming on today. We're going to go right into it and start talking about Phil Mickelson's debut on the Champions Tour. Give me one bold prediction for Phil Mickelson in his debut on the Champions Tour and his possible career on the Champions Tour.
Well, I think the fact that Phil showed up is great. That's the highlight of the senior tour so far this year, not, with apologies to Jerry Kelly. But he shot 61 the opening day. That's the number 2 highlight. Phil is a guy who could really turn the senior tour around and give him a boost. But my bold prediction is going to be that Phil's going to be lured away by TV and only play a handful of events. And I think he'd like to be in that tower on CBS. He had that tryout, and boy, it went well. Plus, he's hawking that coffee brand he's got. And I do have bad news for Phil. I don't drink coffee, so that could hurt his brand. But I think hanging around the PGA Tour, he's a guy who's chased majors. I think broadcasting those if he gets the chance, and I'm going out on a limb there because I know CBS likes Nick Faldo. But I think if he had the choice, I think he'd like to do a lot of broadcasting and play a little bit of senior golf. But I'd like to be wrong on that prediction.
I think on the opposite end of the spectrum, I think my bold prediction is that Phil Mickelson is going to play events on the PGA Tour Champions. I think a couple months ago, as his 50th birthday was around the corner, I'm fairly certain somebody asked him what his attitude was going to be like heading into 50 and if he was going to play PGA Tour Champions events. And I'm pretty sure the quote was wrapped in something to do with hitting bombs. And as long as he was hitting bombs, he would stay on the PGA Tour. So something must have gotten into him. Of course, his season wrapped up early. He's no longer in the FedEx Cup playoffs. So for all the conversations wrapped in Phil, wanting to compete and contend on the regular PGA Tour and maybe mix in some broadcasting and sell some of his products as well. I mean, this is a guy who's got the second best career of the modern time on the PGA Tour, behind, of course, Tiger Woods. So
for sure. And I would probably buy a ticket to go see the Champions Tour if Phil is in the field. But this past Sunday, Dustin Johnson won the Northern Trust, finishing 30 under par by 11 strokes. He is a huge favorite to win the FedEx Cup, and he now has 22 PGA Tour wins, but only one major title and a lot of close calls. So how would you define DJ's career at this point?
I've shot 30 under par lots of times. Oh, wait, is this microphone on? Oh, look, Dustin's had a Hall of Fame career. We would induct, if he was eligible tomorrow, he would get voted in. He's got more wins than Curtis Strange, Tom Kite, a lot of guys. So the fact that he's got overwhelming talent and yet underwhelms us, we have such high expectations. We raise the bar for him. He could have been so much better, but, there's other guys trying to beat him that are pretty good too. I don't think he gets enough credit. And the fact that he's won 13 straight years, only a handful of the best golfers in history have ever done that. So he ranks at the top. I just think he's got jet skiing and Paulina Gretzky and some other important, some other fun things to do. He's in that he's in that late 30s zone where the players, get distracted. I think if he was really driven and focused on his putting and his wedge play, which he obviously did recently, this is the kind of thing he can do. And I'd like to say we should expect to see that now that he just did it, but you got to be you. Really, it's like an annuity. He shows up every year. Let's take it and run.
Yeah, I think the weird thing to say is that if I had to describe his career in one word, I would say kind of disappointing, but in like the nicest way possible, because he is just so good. You look at what he did this past week to shoot 30 under par, and I think maybe more impressive than that is the 11-shot margin of victory. And then you just think, how could this guy not win every time he tees it up? He shot the most disappointing 60 in PGA Tour history in the first round, and then he pretty much had a shot to do the exact same thing on Sunday. He shot 30 for his first 9 holes, so he was out there at it again. So this is a guy who, no matter what the situation is, because he is very chill, he can compete, he can contend, he has all the tools. And over the last 13 years, even though he wins every single year, he hasn't really lost any of his distance. His wedge game has just gotten better. His iron game has always been world class. And if he continues to improve on the scoring side of things from 50 yards and in, including his putting, including his chipping, including his wedge game, this is a guy who probably for the next decade is going to be competing and contending and in the conversation for major championships every single year. So I say disappointing, but in the nicest way possible, because he's got one major, he's got the 22 wins. To Gary's point, he's a Hall of Famer. He's got more money than he knows what to do with, but it could have been a little bit better. And I think that what could have been will probably hang over him for a number of years as well.
Also, always finishing with women's golf, they had an incredible showcase at the British Open, having Sophia Popov win by 2 strokes at Royal Troon. She was a caddy for the first event when the LPGA restarted due to the COVID outbreak, and she was ranked 304th coming into this event. Is she the biggest underdog champion in golf history? And if not her, then who?
Well, that was a pretty good promotion she got, kind of like Donald Trump Jr. But it was a great Cinderella story, great underdog story, but there's been so many in golf. I can't put her in the top 10. I've got, and in women's golf, there's been some great moments too. I don't think this one tops Catherine Lacoste winning the U.S. Open as an amateur. Birdie Kim came out of nowhere. Hillary Lunke won a playoff with Angela Stanford and Kelly Robbins, and Mo Martin won the Women's Open about 6 years ago, and she's kind of nobody likes to be called a short hitter, but she's light off the tee, and that was a great one. She made an eagle last round, but none of that matters. She won the thing on a tough course in tough conditions. It was major championship weather for sure. She's not an underdog anymore. It's not the greatest underdog story in history, but it's the best one this year, and it's probably going to may well be the best golf story of the year.
For sure.
Yeah, I think it was a good history lesson there from Gary. I think Francis Ouimet was probably going to be my pick as the greatest underdog story in the game. But to your point, Alexis, I don't think that should take away from all of her accomplishments. When you look at what Sophia Popov has done in the last month college, she was a caddy for Ann Van Dam. Then she finishes tied for 9th. Then she goes to the Symetra Tour. She finished runner-up there. Misses out on LPGA Tour status essentially by just one shot, goes across the pond thanks to her fine result on the LPGA Tour the week prior, or 2 weeks prior, I should say, and then wins the Women's Open. 5-year exemption, nearly $1 million. We could go on. And I think the key thing for me as you watch her raw emotion unfold on the Sunday after she was confirmed as the winner, after she had that tremendous photo with pouring the beer into the Women's Open trophy and drinking out of it. But she says, I almost quit golf last year. Thank God I didn't. And I think, we've all kind of had those moments, certainly Gary and myself, some different kind of moments when it relates to wanting to quit golf. But Alexis, yourself, I'm sure, has kind of felt the tug of, oh my goodness, what am I really doing here? But Popov has came out of all that, came out of the fog, recommitted herself to playing. From the sounds of it, she's a wonderful person as well. And now she can count herself as a major champion. Just a wonderful story from start to finish for her.
For sure, absolutely. And she's also won, I want to say, 3 Cactus Tour mini tour events during the COVID season. So definitely one of the highlights of this year, and one of the stories that will definitely help the LPGA grow. So thank you guys so much for being guests today, and make sure to tune in next week on Send It.